There's a strange moment that happens when you start growing as a person. You become more disciplined. You think more deeply. You stop chasing every distraction. You become more selective about who you spend time with. You start caring about your future instead of only your present. And somehow, life starts feeling boring. You wake up, go through your routine, work on yourself, come home, scroll for a while, go to sleep, then repeat. Nothing is necessarily wrong. You're not failing. Your life may actually be improving, but emotionally, something feels missing. And this is where many people make a dangerous mistake. They assume boredom means they need more excitement. So they start looking for stimulation, more social media, more entertainment, more shopping, more late nights, more drama, more random conversations, more things happening. But the problem isn't always that your life has become too boring. Sometimes your brain has simply become used to a completely different level of stimulation. And when you begin growing, your old sources of excitement stop working. That's what we're going to unpack today. Because if you understand what's happening inside your mind, you may stop trying to escape the quiet and finally understand what the quiet is trying to tell you. Point 1. Growth removes old sources of excitement. When you were younger, excitement was often easy to find. A new notification could make your day. A random message could change your mood. A weekend party could give you something to look forward to. A new relationship, a new purchase, a new game, a new goal. Everything felt fresh. But as you grow, your standards change. You start asking different questions. Instead of, is this fun? You start asking, is this meaningful? Instead of, do these people like me? You start asking, do I actually like who I become around these people? Instead of, what can I do tonight? You start thinking, where is my life going? That shift can feel incredibly uncomfortable, because growth often takes away the things that used to distract you before it gives you something better to replace them with. That creates a strange middle period. Your old life doesn't satisfy you anymore, but your new life hasn't fully formed yet, and that space feels boring. But it isn't necessarily emptiness. It can be transition. Think about it. You stop enjoying pointless arguments. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop needing constant attention. You stop chasing people who give you mixed signals. You stop spending every night doing something just because you're afraid of being alone. From the outside, your life may look quieter, but internally, something important is happening. Your definition of excitement is changing, and that brings us to something most people never realize. Point 2. Your brain can become addicted to stimulation. Your brain is designed to notice novelty, new information, new messages, new videos, new rewards, new experiences. Every time something unexpected happens, your brain pays attention. That's useful for survival, but modern life gives us an endless supply of novelty. You can open your phone and instantly receive hundreds of new pieces of information. Short videos, notifications, memes, arguments, celebrity news, entertainment, messages. Your brain barely gets a chance to become bored, and that creates a problem, because boredom is not always something that needs to be eliminated. Sometimes boredom is the space where your mind resets. When you constantly fill every quiet moment with stimulation, ordinary life can start feeling painfully slow. You eat breakfast while watching something. You walk while listening to something. You sit alone and immediately grab your phone. You wait 5 minutes and start scrolling. Eventually, silence feels uncomfortable. And then you say, "My life is boring." But maybe your life isn't boring. Maybe your brain has forgotten how to experience ordinary moments without needing constant stimulation. That's a huge difference. Because if you believe your life is the problem, you'll keep changing your life. But if the real problem is your relationship with stimulation, you can change that instead. And there's another reason growing can make life feel strangely empty. Point 3. You stop needing drama. This one is uncomfortable. Sometimes what we call excitement was actually emotional chaos. The unpredictable friend. The relationship where you never knew where you stood. The constant arguments. The people who disappeared and came back. The pressure to prove yourself. The feeling that something was always happening. When you're used to emotional chaos, peace can feel boring. That's because your brain becomes familiar with intensity. You get used to emotional highs and lows. Then one day, you start choosing peace. You stop responding to every argument. You stop chasing people. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You stop creating problems just to feel something. And suddenly, your life becomes quiet. At first, that quiet can feel empty. You might even miss the chaos. Not because the chaos was good for you, but because it was familiar. This is one of the strangest parts of personal growth. Sometimes you don't miss the person. You miss the emotional intensity they brought into your life. You don't miss the situation. You miss having something constantly happening, and learning to enjoy peace takes time. Because peace doesn't always give you an immediate dopamine rush. It gives you something slower. Stability, clarity, control. And those things may not feel exciting at first, but they become incredibly valuable once you learn how to appreciate them. Point 4. Your goals become less flashy. Another reason life can feel boring after growth is that meaningful progress is usually quiet. Nobody applauds you for going to bed on time. Nobody celebrates you for saving money instead of spending it. Nobody sees you resisting an impulse. Nobody gives you a trophy for staying consistent. Nobody knows how hard it was to sit down and work when you didn't feel motivated. Personal growth often happens in moments that look completely ordinary. You read, you practice, you work, you exercise, you learn, you make mistakes, you try again. Repeat. There's no dramatic soundtrack, no instant transformation, no giant reward every morning. And because of that, growth can feel boring. But here's the irony. The boring things are often creating the interesting life you want later. The skills you practice today can create opportunities years from now. The money you save today can create freedom later. The habits you build quietly can change your future. But your brain wants immediate evidence. It wants to know, is this working? And sometimes the answer is impossible to see yet. That's why patience becomes such an important part of growing up. You have to learn how to keep going, even when progress feels invisible. And this leads to the biggest shift of all. Point 5. You have to learn how to create meaning, not just chase excitement. When you're younger, you may ask, what will make me feel good right now? But growth slowly changes the question. You start asking, what is worth doing even when I don't feel like doing it? That is a much deeper question, because excitement is temporary. Meaning lasts longer. You can spend 3 hours scrolling and still feel empty afterward. But you can spend 1 hour learning something difficult and feel proud of yourself afterward. Those experiences feel completely different. One gives you stimulation, the other gives you satisfaction, and your brain has to learn the difference. This is why you shouldn't immediately panic when life becomes quieter. Instead, ask yourself, what am I actually missing? Is it excitement, connection, challenge, creativity, purpose, adventure, or simply something new. Because boredom is often information. It can be your mind telling you, this routine no longer fits me. That doesn't mean you need to destroy your life and start over. It might simply mean you need to introduce meaningful challenges. Learn something you've never learned. Visit somewhere new. Start creating instead of constantly consuming. Talk to someone you genuinely connect with. Work towards something that scares you a little. Build a skill. Take on a project. Do something that makes you feel present again. The goal isn't to make every day exciting. That's impossible. The goal is to make your life meaningful enough that ordinary days don't feel empty. And there's one more thing you need to understand. Point 6. You may be outgrowing your old identity. Sometimes life feels boring because the identity you built your life around no longer fits. Maybe you used to be the funny one, the social one, the person who was always available, the person who needed attention, the person who always had plans, the person who never said no. But now, you're changing. You want different things. You think differently. You value different people. You have different priorities. And when your identity changes, your old lifestyle can start feeling strangely unfamiliar. That can create loneliness, because the people around you may still expect the old version of you. And you may secretly wonder, where do I belong now? This is where many people go backward. They return to old habits simply because those habits feel familiar. They reconnect with people they already know aren't good for them. They start chasing old forms of entertainment. They create unnecessary drama, not because they truly want that life, but because at least they recognize themselves in it. But growth requires something difficult. You have to tolerate the awkward stage where the old version of you is disappearing, and the new version hasn't fully arrived. That stage can feel boring. It can feel lonely. It can feel confusing, but it doesn't mean you're going backward. You may simply be between identities, and eventually something changes. You stop asking why life isn't as exciting as it used to be. You start asking whether the life you're building is actually worth living. That is a much more powerful question. So if your life feels boring after you've grown, don't immediately assume something is wrong. Maybe you've simply stopped being entertained by the things that once distracted you. Maybe you're learning to live without constant drama. Maybe your brain is recovering from years of non-stop stimulation. Maybe your goals have become deeper. Maybe your identity is changing. Or maybe you're standing in the quiet space between the person you were and the person you're becoming. And that space can feel uncomfortable. But don't rush to escape it, because sometimes boredom is not a sign that your life has become smaller. It's a sign that your old definition of excitement has become too small for who you are now. You don't need a life where something dramatic happens every day. You need a life where even ordinary days have meaning. A life where you can sit alone without feeling empty, work without needing applause, grow without announcing it, enjoy peace without confusing it with boredom, and wake up knowing that even if today looks ordinary, you are still building something extraordinary. So the next time you look around and think, why does my life feel so boring? Pause. Don't immediately run toward another distraction. Ask yourself one better question. Am I bored, or am I finally ready for something deeper? Because the answer might completely change the way you see your life.